It's been a big focus for us on NDTV. Well, as the pollution season sets in, the Supreme Court has raised tough questions as far as the CAQM is concerned. What is a CAQM? Well, it's the Central Air Quality Panel that is responsible for monitoring pollution levels as far as Delhi is concerned. Now, the Supreme Court has once again rebuked the air pollution panel, saying that no change has taken place on the ground and there have been only meetings and no effective work at the grassroots level. Remember, this comes just days after the Supreme Court had said that the air quality panel is merely a silent spectator as far as the pollution menace is concerned in the national capital. As we speak, I must contextualize, the pollution levels have already risen to emergency levels in some parts of NCR, certainly, with the air quality in the dark red zone, in the poor category in some parts of Delhi, and also the PM 2.5, which is a toxic cancer-causing micropollutant, that is also at least 8 to 10 times the WHO's safe limit in many parts of Delhi. So amid all of this, the Supreme Court, really coming down heavily as far as the CAQM is concerned. This is the very body that is responsible for curbing pollution levels. But let me go across live to my colleague Aishwarya Jain joining us from the Supreme Court. So Aishwarya, a couple of important points, tough observations, but I think what the Supreme Court has said about stubble burning, that is significant as well, that the CAQM has to take on its role as somebody who can take punitive action. Why only minimal fines as far as violators of farm fires guidelines are concerned? So that's an important point as well.
Well, certainly, remember in the last hearing in the Supreme Court, it was the Apex Court who asked the CAQM to file the better compliance report, to which the affidavit was filed in the Supreme Court. But tough questions were asked today as well by the Supreme Court from the CAQM, where the Supreme Court clearly expressed the dissatisfaction on the implementation of the policies that had come out from the meetings and the subcommittee meetings that had been formed in the last few meetings by the body. Also, there had been affidavits which had been asked by the central government, the Haryana government and the Punjab government that needs to be submitted in the next hearing by 16th of October. Now, very importantly, on the stubble burning, it was Supreme Court who stated that there had been a minimal of the compensation that had been asked by the farmers who had been, using and had been found in stubble burning while it was Punjab government, while the hearing was going on, stated in the Supreme Court that because the money had not been issued by the central government to the Punjab government, it is very tough for the farmers to use the machines and the diesel and the compensation for the drivers to use tractors, so that the technology can be used to avoid stubble burning in those states. Of course, it has been also stated by the Supreme Court that the specific directions by the CAQM for prosecuting rule violators that had not also been implemented. The CAQM on the response stated that there had been 5 out of 12 IPS officers who had been in the meeting, clearly had given the instructions, but that had not gone down to the wire. Ultimately, the CAQM stated that out of the 5 states of the Delhi NCR, there had been several officers that had been appointed, but the implementation had not been done because the state governments had not been engaged in a very proper manner. The Supreme Court clearly had today asked very, very tough questions and stated that if the implementations had not been done, then they would have to proceed with several of the acts, and the directions will now be given by the Supreme Court to the CAQM as well to implement those, because today as well we have seen that there had been stubble burning cases. The reports that had been submitted in the Supreme Court by the Punjab and Haryana clearly states that 122 stubble burning cases had been found in September this year. In Punjab, in Haryana, there are more than 80 cases of stubble burning that had been recorded, which is much higher than 2022 and 2023, to which it was stated that the final affidavit needs to be submitted submitted by just not the Haryana and Punjab state government, but to central government as well. And the next hearing has been postponed to October 16th. Whether there will be tough directions that will be issued by the Supreme Court now, finally, when these affidavits will be submitted, is something that remains to be seen. But toxic air still in the air as far as the Delhi NCR region is concerned.
That's right. So I think that's an important point. But, you know, when it comes to stubble burning, Aishwarya, as we have seen in the past couple of years, particularly, that it's an extremely complex issue. While, of course, you know, we talk about the balers and crushers that have been provided to farmers, many of them cannot afford those. They're forced to burn stubble. This is what many of the farmers have pointed out year after year, that, you know, it's not by choice, but, you know, they're almost coerced to burn stubble because there are no alternatives. So whether it's those machines or crushers that are provided to farmers, or you know, the fact that there are other crops that are provided as alternatives, these are all measures that farmers cannot afford, which is why you know, the only option left here is penalty, which is now what the Supreme Court is backing now.
Well, certainly, and that's what the Punjab government also stated while their AG was present in the court during the hearing. It was stated that the money that needs to be issued by the central government has not reached to the state government, and ultimately the farmers are not in a position to manage the wages of the drivers for the tractors or technology to be used in case of stubble burning and the options that were given to them. And therefore, the reason perhaps the blame had been shifted to the central government by the Punjab government. On the other side, it was also stated that the number of cases of the stubble burning in the last 15 days had drastically increased, due to which, it was stated that because of the wind that is coming towards the directions from Punjab, Haryana and northeastern parts of the country towards the Delhi NCR region, the pollution crisis is looming on, to which it was stated by the Supreme Court that strict vigilance and implementation of those directions and the policies that had been adopted in the subcommittee meetings that had happened in August 2024 by the CAQM had to be implemented, and there should be concerned officers that should be placed. Now, on that particular point, when Supreme Court asked that who are these expert officers, to which it was stated that whether these are related to the air pollution, whether they had been had an expertise in this case or not, there was no answer that was given. It was a point blank reply by the Punjab and Haryana government, to which it was stated that by next hearing they will be submitting an affidavit and a detailed detailed minutes of who the subcommittee members are and whether these are experts or not will be submitted in front of the Supreme Court. So yes, on one side there had been blame that had been shifted to the central government on the part of money that had not been reached. On the other side, it is also the CAQM who had been asked very tough questions by the Supreme Court during today's hearing.
Absolutely, Aishwarya. And I think that point about center-state politics becomes extremely important right now, given the fact that now we have the Aam Aadmi Party government both in Delhi as well as Punjab. You know, in the past couple of years, we've seen how the Aam Aadmi Party government here in Delhi has said that Punjab has not been able to implement those measures. But now we have the Aam Aadmi Party government in both states and also the center, because last time around, what the government here in Delhi had said that the center has not incentivized farmers enough, you know, in giving them money or in giving them options that are viable for them. So I think that's an important point as well, that the Supreme Court says that we are not concerned with center-state politics. Ultimately, on the ground, pollution levels need to be brought down. All right, we seem to have lost that line with Aishwarya. We'll try and reconnect with him there. But the Supreme Court certainly raising some very important questions. Also, to contextualize for our viewers, the CAQM, remember, was formed a couple of years ago by combining various bodies that were responsible for the monitoring of pollution and, of course, implementing measures to curb it. So remember, the CAQM is a body that is responsible also for putting in place certain measures that targets pollution at the source level. That is is what experts have pointed out year after year, that last-ditch efforts will bear no fruit. We need to target pollution emissions at the source level, whether it's industry or vehicle. These are key factors as well. There is this misunderstanding that stubble burning is one of the major contributors. Vehicular pollution and industrial pollution actually contribute to more than 25% of Delhi's pollution as well. So of course, as the pollution season sets in, there has been no change on the ground. This is what the Supreme Court has said.